If today was the last day of your life, would you want to do what you're about to do today? Hey, Wiki Hunters, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Art of Photography podcast, where you will learn, inspired, and fall in love with photography all over again. So, my name is the Wiki Hunter Stanley, and I am very, very excited to bring to you this very first episode of podcast. So, forgive me for the imperfection because, hey, this is the first time I'm doing it. And if I do such a good job right now, I'm gonna be struggling to try to top this one out. So maybe it's a good thing for myself. So I just want to talk to you. I want to share with you why I put together this podcast. This podcast is mainly gonna be around the art of photography and why we love photography so much. I think in this very difficult time, a lot of people need hopes and need more positivity in their life. All we need to do is to put so much positive things out there that we smother those negative things that is happening around the world right now. Um, at the end of the day, photography has made me happy, has transformed my life, and I want to share that with you. So, the different things that I will cover in this podcast is things that you can learn from, the things that you can improve your photography with, some tips and tricks and so forth. Because at the end of the day, if you are doing well in photography, the chances are you will enjoy it. Then I want to share with you some of my journey, my travel, my adventure. So is other people adventures to bring you an inspiration and a motivation for you to go out there to shoot more and to appreciate the beauty all around us. And lastly, I will bring out a lot of different people, or well, mostly photographers, to share with you their passion in photography. Photography is such a wide niche, from abstract to illustrative to wildlife to sports to actions. So I would love to share all of that with you from my guests, and hopefully they can show you a little bit about what they're passionate about and why they're passionate about that particular part of photography. All right, so let's jump into today's podcast. So today podcast, I want to talk to you. I want to share with you my journey, how I fell in love with photography, and how photography have transformed my life. Um, I remember in my bathroom mirror, I used to have Steve Jobs quote, if if today was the last day of your life, would you want to do what you're about to do today? I used to wake up and I used to look at that quote every single day, and actually I would read it out loud. And for the longest time the answer was no. And over time I started changing the way I do things, the way I approach things, and always think back to that quote, and I always think, okay, if this was last day of my life, what would I like to do more? And slowly but surely that started to change. So, for those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Stanley Arianto. I was born in Indonesia, and I moved to Los Angeles 2 years for middle school in Venice Beach, actually, very close to Venice Beach, Mark Twain Middle School. And it was a pretty cool time. I really love it. That's how I got into skateboarding, and that's kind of how where my passion for snowboarding kind of come from. So from there, I went back to Indonesia in Bandung. It's a capital city of West Java. And after I finished my high school, I went to Australia to study mechanical engineering. At that time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but engineering was kind of make sense. I like cars, I like mechanical stuff, and I thought, well, mechanical engineering is kind of in that path. So it was one of the reason why I chose it, and actually the biggest reason why I chose it, because back then I wanted to do so many things. I wanted to do political science, I wanted to do psychology, I wanted to do architecture, but engineering was actually the shortest amount of times you need to study to get the most amount of pay at the end of that bachelor degree. Yeah, so all we need is 4 years, and we are an engineer. Well, as you know, an architecture and a psychology, they have to do apprenticeship and internship and master degrees and so forth. So um, yeah, at the end of that, I thought I thought I do engineering. I was never really a good student actually. I used to skip class all the time, and don't tell my mom and dad because they won't be happy about this. But my friends would know because I would ask my friend to sign in for me when they go to a lecture. So kids, if you're at home, don't follow me. Go to school, go to your lecture, and yeah, get better at it. But yeah, I managed to pass engineering. I barely passed engineering. Actually, the last one of the last exam I got 49, which technically failed, but they bumped me up to 50 and give me a considered pass. I think that's what they call it. And yeah, it was so that's how I got through my bachelor degrees. And as soon as I graduated, I was looking for a job for a few months, and it was hard to come by. One of the reason why I took engineering in Australia was the mining sector at that time was booming. So everyone says, as soon as before you graduate, you have like a whole bunch of offer, and then I was like, oh, that sounds great. Anyway, I couldn't find any job. So what I have done was I applied for master's degree, and I don't know if I was gonna be accepted because I wasn't such a good student, but I managed to get in. Um, so luckily, halfway through my master degree, I've got an offer from one of the aluminium company in Australia. Man, you have no idea how happy I was. I when I got the call, it was so weird because I didn't even know what's there, who they are, and the only thing that I asked them was like, you guys gonna send me a confirmation letter, right? And then they're like, yeah, we'll send you a confirmation letter with all this. So I was like, sweet, because I did not know who they are, what's their address, and so forth. Um, but long story short, that's how I get to engineering. Now, when I started my role as an engineer, I actually really enjoy it. It was a different role like any other engineering. I don't sit behind a computer all day. I actually get out there. I get to see like massive mechanic stuff that went wrong, that get ripped apart. It was actually pretty cool. Um, so I was quite happy then, and for a little while, life was great. It was perfect. I got a great job. I got good life. Good disposable income, and the turning point was when I had a bad breakup with my girlfriend at the time. It was really weird looking back. It was like it's not really that big of a deal, but that was probably one of the hardest time of my life. Probably not because of the experience that I've gone through, but because I don't know how to deal with it. Um, Long story short, I was trying to get out. I was trying to run away. I was just like, man, like I need to do something different. And traveling was one of the thing that, like running away, jump on a plane and travel was one of the thing that I did. At that time, my grandma birthday was coming up, and I thought, well, I'll spare an extra days or a couple of days in Bali. I've got a few friends there, so it was kind of like it was good. I get to see them. At the same times, when they're at work, I get to do my own thing, meet new friends, make new friends, and do different things that give me a different experience. And that was how I fell in love with travel. Believe it or not, I used to hate traveling. I feel like it was a waste of time and money. I used to always want the only thing that I want in life was having a nice car, a nice house, a good job. That was the goal. But I fell in love with travel, and yeah, a weekend trip in Bali turned into 10 days in Japan, and eventually I went for 5 week trips. We call it the Road to Oktoberfest. It was pretty cool trip. Um, so I went with a couple other mates there, and at that time during my travel, I would take photo with my phone just to document my travel. Like it's like, oh, I went to Vietnam, and you got this scooter with this massive thing behind there's massive tank behind their back, and they're like just taking that from one place to another, the things that you don't get to see in Australia, right? So that was pretty cool. Just document that thing, and share it with your friends and family. But when I go to Europe, it was a longer trip, and I thought, okay, well, I want to take this a little bit seriously. I want to think about a photo that I take and take a better photo, because I realized that out of the 500 or 600 or even few thousands photos that I took, there was only a few that's great. So I was like, like it's great that I get to capture all this scenery or memory, snapshot of my travel, but they don't really um, do its justice. They don't really translate the experience that I had, the stories that I was, that I get to see, the story that I want to share. So I brought a pocket camera, a G12. It captured raw files, so it was pretty good at that time. I've got my GoPro and a couple other action camera, and actually that was the very first time I took photography seriously. The first day we got there, or maybe it was the second day, we got to London. We got into the hostel, and I remember at nighttime I took my pocket camera, rented this like bicycle on the side of the road, and just start riding around town. I didn't even have a tripod back then, so what I did was I would put my camera either on a, like, anything like a rubbish bin, or a ledge, or a bridge, and I would like stuff my wallet, stuff a coin just to try to make it even. Yeah, it was a good time, but that was the spark of photography, because after that trip I was like, wow, like the photo that I actually put an effort in, I get to enjoy it more. I had the pride to share it with my friends and family, and they can actually see and understand the experience, or part of the experience that I was going through. And I thought that was great. So um, the next trip I had planned was to go to the Middle East. That was the Africa in Europe, and then go to Middle East, Jordan, in yeah, r- next to Israel there. So this time I thought, okay, I wanna take my photography to the next level. My dad loved photography, and the funny thing is, I always stay out from what he, every time he tried to teach me, or every time he talked photography, I was just staying out of it. I was like, you know what? It's too expensive. It's too bulky. It's impractical. I don't I don't think I will get into that. I don't even want to know. So, funnily enough, even though my dad loved like photography, I actually never picked a thing from him. Until I started taking this photography seriously. So I borrowed my dad just an entry level mirrorless. It was pretty good mirrorless, but it was quite old at that time. It was the Olympus EPL 5. So he let me borrow that, and he let me borrow his 5D Mark III and the lenses. I thought it's like 5D is massive, and I don't really want to break it. It's expensive, so I brought the EPL 5. I take a lot of more effort. I take my time. I compose. I think about what I was gonna shoot during that trip, and as a result, I've got a lot better success capturing a better photo, or a photo that actually represent the experience and the beauty that I was experiencing that day. um, anyway, that was kind of the biggest turning point, because um, that time, just before the trip, I saw this photo of a Milky Way. Really nice composition. I wish I would have saved that photo, because that was definitely one thing that really changed that turned around my life for photography. So, um, so I got when I go to Morocco, we start traveling, take a photo, and one of my friend who's on the trip, or someone my friend who I met on the trip, um, showed me another photo of the Milky Way, and I was like, yeah, I know, I want to be able to take photo like that. And that was it, like that was my motivation. I knew I wanna be able to do that. And the other thing that really really pushed me was that I made a travel photographer who also he just left his job. His name is Jonah Gray, so look it up. His photos are amazing. But yeah, he's probably a few years in front of me. He had a lot more experience. He had traveled a little bit more, and he actually had left his job at that time, while as I'm still working full time. So when I got back, I was happy. I was able to capture more great photos. Something that actually represent the beauty. We went to the Sahara Desert, and it was so beautiful. And I was glad I was able to capture a portion of that. And went to Petra, which was just incredible. Um, but I feel like there's something missing. It's just not good enough. So I took my dad's 5D Mark III at that time, and I was just walking around the city. I remember I went to a popular place to shoot, which is the Bell Tower in Western Australia. I took my first shot, and I was just, man, I am sold. I want to take photo, and I want this camera to capture this photo. So that was my inspiration and my motivation to get to it. It wasn't really that at that time I wasn't even thinking about traveling full time as a photographer, but I want to be able to capture more photo like this. I felt like I have achieved something. I was so proud of myself, and from that day forward, photography has given me a little bit more purpose in my life. I would um, at that time, before that, I was really it was really hard to wake up to go to work. And when after this day, I would wake up half an hour or an hour earlier to go to a different spot for sunrise before I go to work, and after work I would go to a different spot and capture more sunset. Sometimes I'm not back home until 9. And if you look at some of my storm chasing in Perth, I actually was up until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had like 2 hours sleep, where I need to drive an hour and a half the next day to the refinery. So yeah, that was the very beginning journey of my love for photography, and how it started to transform my life. It had given me purpose. You know, since then on forward, travel was much more enjoyable, because it become more purposeful. I want to not only see the beauty that the world has to offer, but I want to capture them, and I want to share them and inspire others. I want to be that photo that inspired me to pick up this camera and take a better photo, right? And that was the big thing for me. So after that trip, I know I wanted to pursue this further. At this time, I made further along the line, I made my decision that I was gonna quit my job, because I want to travel. Not necessarily to become a photographer, but I just want to travel. I want to see more of the world, because quite frankly, if I were stay in engineering, I won't have the time to see what or and experience the thing that I want to see and experience in my lifetime. And one thing that really tires me, working for corporate, everything was driven by money. And even though you're passionate about a different niche in that work as a mechanical engineer, more often than not, I would not be able to work on that particular project because I was needed elsewhere. Which I understand. That's how the company works, right? But at the same time, that wasn't how I envisioned my life to be. So I rented my house. I have, Tim Ferriss' book to thank me for this, the 4 hour work week, because he said, I know you're scared, but all you have to do is try it out. So that's how I did it. I tried, 10 days, 5 weeks, and so forth. And also, he said, list everything that you're scared of and think about what's the worst that could happen. And when I did that, I was like, you know what? I'll be fine. So, yeah, long story short, um, I was hesitating to leave my job. It was scary to leave a safe um, monthly income. But my roommate and my friend at that time, Megan, she would be angry if she heard this, and I call her roommate. Um, but yeah, Megan would say, you know what, like, um, you should do it. Like, you should just go and do it. And I was like, oh, I had a whole bunch of excuse. At that time, I was about 2 years away from my long service leave, and I was like, maybe I should wait for this. Like, you know what, the time is not worth it. You should do it now. Anyway, long story short, I was there. I was giving my resignation letter to my boss, and the day I left the refinery, I flew to Indonesia, and um, I spent 4 months in Indonesia, and sorry, 2 months in Indonesia, and I traveled all around Australia. It was 40,000 kilometers around Australia in 4 months, and it was great. It was one of the best time of my life, and during that time, I was able to capture a photo of my dream. The photo that I was always envisioning, that I was like, okay, I want to be able to take a photo like that, and I was actually able to capture that photo. And yeah, 2018 was a interesting year because even though I got two awards that year, and the two awards was the photo that was I really dream of. Before the trip, I knew where I need to go, and I knew the type of photo that I want to get. Um, but at the same times, I almost left photography back to engineering because I was also frustrated. I submitted a whole bunch of my photo to competition. I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that to get recognition, and also to understand that I was on the right path. But out of all that, it was only two that I got back. So I was quite scared. But that was the year of my transformation. I actually reached out to one of the winner, and then he shared me a few words of his wisdom, and it was the time where I understand that photography is not about your camera. It's not about capturing other people' vision, but at that time I used to look at Instagram, and I used to go, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go there. I want to take photo exactly like this. This is amazing. But photography is more than that. Photography is about expressing yourself. It's the freedom that you get. You can take any kind of photos. Why would you take anyone else photo? Same with life. If you can live your own life, what would you live? What would you live a life of someone else, right? So ever since then, Instagram was no longer an example, but it's more of an inspiration. I would look at the places that I would visit. I would look at the photos, and I was like, okay, these are great. So the first thing I would do get there is like I would take a photo exactly like it, and then the next thing is like, how can I make this different and better? And ever since that, I was able to go from two awards to 23 awards in 2019. So it was a big change in my photography journey. um, but I started this journey because I wanted to travel more, and I wanted to take more of a great photo, right? But that kind of transformed when I got to Lake Louise. I work in this photography store, and I had to do like photo lesson, and that really sparked my interest in teaching people. And I knew I wanted to teach more from my days as a consultant of business improvement, because at that time I had to teach people, and I would have to mentor them on the new system, the business change, and so forth. And I love that. I love being able to inspire people to improve their life. I feel like I am making an impact in this world. So that's where I changed my mindset about photography. I no longer only want to take great photos, but I want to inspire others. I want to motivate others. I want to help other people to take beautiful photo too, because the great thing about photography is everyone have different perspective. Everyone have different vision and have different eyes. So even though we go to the same place, the photo that come out from two different persons' camera could be totally different, and that really excites me. I like how to see other people perspective and learn from that. What can I take from that? What am I missing? How can I improve my photography from that different perspective? What can I learn from that? So here I am right now, standing in or sitting in front of you, um, sharing and trying to help other people to get better in photography. And I think my ultimate goal is, along my journey as a photographer, I started photography because I love taking photo. I love the feeling to be able to capture a great photo. But eventually that kind of shifted because of the era of social media and the status quo, and I was pressed and I was pushed to capture this, um, what do you call it, like, these popular Instagram photos. And for a reason there, I kind of lose my passion, and I was just trying to take more of this Instagram liked photos, right? And in that 2018, that's where, like, the shift was back on. Was I realized that, I take photo for myself, not for these people. If they like it, that's great. If not, there is um it's not worth for me to sacrificing my joy in my life for photography just to get the likes. So I really shifted a lot from that. And in this series of podcasts, in this the podcast of the art of photography, I want to do just that. I want to show you that you don't have to follow other people's path. You can follow your own path. You have a great perspective, a great vision. And even though in the beginning I absolutely agree, you might need to follow other people's path first before you can find your own style. But you will need to outgrow that. I would love to see your new perspective, a different one. Even though people say it doesn't look great. Well, who are they to say that, right? At the end of the day, photography is an art, and art is about interpretation. And I think it would be very sad if an interpretation of art is or put into one category of what's good and what's bad. So this is why I do this podcast, and this is how I want to be able to help you to learn to take better photos, but more importantly, to inspire you and to motivate you to become a photographer of who you are, to be able to express yourself and tell your story to a photography. I will be here to mentor you, to teach you the technical details, but at the end of the day, this is just a tool. I want you to be able to express yourself through this tool. Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoy this episode, and if you do enjoy this episode, please leave a comment and subscribe. Let me know which part of my journey resonates with you, and which part you feel could help you fall in love with photography as well, or fall in love with photography further, I suppose. Because if you are here, I know you already find out that photography brings you happiness. All right, so Yeah, this episode will be released every week on Tuesday, and on the very odd week, I might release a second episode. But I am excited to have you here, and thanks a lot for listening. Um, and I can't wait to see you again next week.